Are you ready?
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 Are you ready to forget your family and your job? World Cup, oh, oh. Football round the clock, football round the clock, football round the clock. World Cup, oh, oh. Football round the clock, oh, oh, oh.
Hello and welcome to Football Around the Clock. I'm your host, Derek Powell. Today is Charles with me, live. We're here in the great state of Washington, home of the Seattle Sounders. And also we have David and Ray joining us over
Hello.
stream. What is going on, everybody?
Hey.
Oh, man.
You guys ready to talk about some craziness this week?
Yeah.
Yep, the real game started.
The real game. There you go. There you go.
Yep.
All right, let's go right into it with the first game being France versus Argentina. As you see, full-time ending 4-3. I don't think anybody, was expecting 7 goals in this game.
No.
It was a goal fest. But as you see on there, Mbappe just stealing the whole theater, showing this miraculous spirit and innovation and getting some great goals. David, what was your take from Argentina on this game?
Oh, I couldn't believe what they came out with. After the spirit that they had to get through the group stage, I thought that they were going to kind of take that and go forward, but they came out with this absolute wild defensive, they had no system defensively. They didn't put Aguero on until way too late. I don't know what was going on with Argentina. I didn't think that they would do well, but 3 goals isn't bad, even if they technically, it was basically 2 goals because the Aguero goal was so late. But, yeah, I couldn't believe it. So they actually did all right, but I think that it was mostly lucky because they looked like France was just cutting them apart at times. Killing Mbappe looked so fast, so dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ray, your take on this game game in general, France and Argentina.
Yeah, it was really quite entertaining. It was surprising for Argentina to go up 2-1. But yeah, France, Mbappe, incredible game that he had. Again, yeah, just not enough there for Argentina. I agree with David. They were pretty fortunate. Di Maria had an incredible strike for their first goal, and then the second goal went off a messy shot that went off Mercado's heel or whatever and deflected in. Argentina's lineup decisions by their coach, not starting Higuain or Aguero or putting Dybala in there at any point this whole tournament is very all that fire and attack and just being wasted on the bench. So pretty disappointing for them. Great showing for France.
Yeah, Charles, your take on this game?
No, I agree with both of you. The lineups, that's a head scratcher. Why don't you put your best players out there, especially on a knockout stage? But one thing I got to say, watching this game, France and their incredible speed, they got behind that defense so many times and had one-on-ones. It was incredible with the speed, especially Mbappe. I mean, holy cow. He must have toasted him 4 or 5 times. So, yeah, Argentina with the head scratchers. They looked, at times they looked good, and at other times it looked like they didn't even belong on the pitch. France, speed, I think, the goals, I think when they got up, I thought maybe France got a little bit cocky and, hey, we got this, and that's when Argentina came back. But they showed they could turn it on in an instant, and they did, and came back and put 2 more on them. So it was a fun game to watch, 7 goals, but yeah, Argentina was a big disappointment.
And I agree with Ray on the fortunate tagline. That Di Maria goal was awesome, but if he had been closed down a little better, that wouldn't have happened. And that Messi goal was also very fortunate. So did they give it to Messi in the end? Who did they give it to? Was it
No, it was awarded to Mercado.
Mercado. Okay, yeah. And once again, I'd say disappointing by Messi. And a lot of people will say, okay, he shouldn't have to carry the team. But if you're designing the team around yourself, like if you and Mascherano are the ones who are making the decisions, basically, then you should carry them. That's your responsibility at that point. So,
Yep.
Yeah. I think that gets in the whole debate again, Ronaldo versus Messi. And for me, watching this World Cup, there's no contest. Ronaldo's the best player in the world because he has less talent on that Portugal team, and he's scoring left and right. And Messi looks like he's non-existent, and he has all the talent in the world around him. So to me, Ronaldo's the best player in the world. I think Messi's starting to slip.
Sure. I also thought that having Banega in there, though, was a good move. I thought that he did well for Argentina. So I thought that France looked vulnerable. You're right, though, that Charles, that like when they turned it on, it was very intimidating. But at the same time, they had some lapses that were unforgivable, I'd say. I would also like to point out, this is a random side note, that if France do win the World Cup, I'd like to name Conte as the player of who's the France midfielder?
Conte. Or
Is it Conte? Okay, yeah.
Pogba.
Yeah.
Pogba?
Yeah, no, Conte is what I'm thinking of, because I'd like to name him like the player of the last like 5 years, because he took a team that shouldn't have gone there. I'm giving him the credit for everything that happened at Leicester, and then like he helped out Chelsea, and if France go anywhere, I'd say that it's partially because of him. Like not like the attacking, but maybe he just gives them the solidity they need. Because if I was an attacking team, he'd be the scariest person on the pitch for me, because he can just pop up anywhere. He will be everywhere, and he'll get the ball. So.
I agree with you definitely there, David. Just watching, being a Chelsea fan, watching him every game. He has a style that we call shadow defense, where he just pops up behind people and just steals the ball at random times, and he just creates problems for teams all over the place. So.
And it gives the Pogba the opportunity to go anywhere he wants on the field without fear of repercussion, because he knows that Conte's back there. And so I think that's an incredibly important thing. And with people like Griezmann and Mbappe, not to mention any of their other strikers, like you don't even have to mention any of them. France can be very dangerous. So and it showed here
for sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, with that, France moves on to the quarterfinals, which brings us to our next game, which is Uruguay versus Portugal. Uruguay beat Portugal 2-1. Again, let's go to you, David. Your thoughts on Uruguay in this game?
I thought they looked really strong defensively. I know that Portugal got a goal, but it was a quick, I don't know if it was a quick corner or a kick throw in, I can't remember. And it was kind of just like Uruguay got caught napping for literally like 20 seconds and Portugal got a goal. And other than that, I felt like Portugal looked really incapable of doing anything. It was because of Uruguay's defense. Uruguay just shut them down. They locked down, as Charles was saying, the player that has looked maybe the most individually dangerous player in the tournament up to this point. And then they locked out Cristiano Ronaldo, and then Cavani's strikes were just incredible. The Cavani and Suarez linked up incredibly, and that last shot that Cavani had to put it away
was insane.
Was insane. Yeah, beautiful curl. One time too, like we always say, like one time it. Yeah, we're like, he should have one timed it, but then one time it with that curl on it. Wow. So, and they also, so they've kind of switched up their system, Uruguay have, and not to go too in depth about it, but it's really provided like a little more class in the midfield, provided some more midfield presence, so it looks even more solid. And it's mostly been the person that I've been calling for this whole tournament, which is Lucas Torreira. So he's really changed how Uruguay look, and if I were to say, not to jinx them, I think Uruguay look the like they can go just very far. They look like no one wants to tangle with Uruguay right now.
Yeah, thoughts on the game, Rick? Can't hear you, Ray.
Sorry. Going into it, it was like both teams aren't possession style or very like with a lot of offensive pressure. So I don't know. I thought it was going to be like pretty ugly and kind of unentertaining, and they're two teams that don't really want the ball. But I felt Portugal had more possession and stuff like that, but Uruguay definitely had the better chances. And Cavani, yeah, what a game he had. Hopefully he'll be good for this next game after picking up an injury towards the end of this game. So yeah, just stout defense by Uruguay. Portugal was, throwing crosses left and right into the box and just couldn't get anything to go because of Uruguay's defense. So yeah, great performance by Uruguay.
And you'd have to think that actually that's not a bad tactic for Portugal, right? They have some incredible ball poachers, and they have some of the, like Pepe and his other center back counterparts. They have height on Uruguay in a lot of places, and they still got nothing. So I'm just saying, like, what tactics do you think would work against Uruguay? The only one that I can think of right now is France's speed. That's the only one that I think could be dangerous to Uruguay.
Yeah. And how many times was Cavani on the ground? What, 7? Before he finally came off the field. I mean, they were going after him. They were pounding him, and he still ended up scoring an incredible goal. And yeah, they look great. That defense is stout. I think rated number 1 defense in the World Cup right now. I think they've had the least amount of goals scored against them. So yeah, this will be interesting as they move forward.
Yeah, just going off of that, the other thing I like about Uruguay is how involved Suarez a little bit, but not so much, but Cavani, like in the team defense and everything. They play team defense so well, and he's so unselfish. He played great defense, as part of the team in this game. He's not, just hanging up there up top. So, yeah just great effort.
Definitely one of the hardest workers in just soccer in general. So speaking of injuries, do either France or Uruguay have yellow card accumulations that are keeping any players from playing the next one?
Yes, there are some. I know yellow cards on France. Give me 1 second.
I just realized that, and I thought that might be important because I know there's a couple other games where towards the end of the games, things got chippy. Well, like yellow card accumulation just started coming out like crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, and I think, so speaking of which, though, I think Uruguay didn't have any yellow cards.
Yeah, I don't think they did either. It was a pretty I don't know. I thought the ref could actually done a better job of, I don't know, getting a handle of the game. I thought he was allowing a lot of dirty stuff on both ends to go, but
I don't disagree, and I think that there's been a fair amount of like laissez-faire attitude towards these games. They've been letting a lot of stuff go, and some games it's come back to haunt them. But in the Uruguay game, I think that it blessed them because they should have had a couple yellow cards at the very least, and they didn't get any. So I don't know if Uruguay has any guys out for the next round. I think France. You said France does.
Yeah, I'm not sure about out, but Giroud. Oh my gosh, I cannot speak French, guys. Matuidi.
Matuidi, Blaise Matuidi.
Matuidi, yeah.
And Pavard all have yellow cards.
They all have yellow cards, or are they out for the next game?
They all have yellow cards.
Okay, so we're on 1.
No, Matuidi is out for the next.
Out. That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
That's the only one now.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. And going forward, Pavard, he was burnt at the end of that game. He was getting taken advantage of a lot towards at the end of their game there, and so we'll see about his ability to keep up with Uruguay on the attack for 90 minutes. But for the last 10, 15 minutes of the game, looks like he ran out of steam, but they kept him in there. He did good, but he didn't do great. He got burned a few times, so we'll see how his fitness is.
Yeah, I think this will be a real test for any defense because Cavani and Suarez stay so far apart on offense. They're basically acting like wingers at the beginning. Like you saw that when Suarez crossed it to Cavani. No, Cavani crossed it to Suarez and back, or was it the other way around? Yeah, because it came off Cavani's face, right? So Suarez then put the cross in. Like they were on opposite sides of the field and they just converged so quickly. So the center backs have to make decisions at that point. Mm-hmm. Do we come out to help guard them or what? And then the wide players have all these one guarding two guys decisions up until they're in the box. It's a very tricky system to deal with.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting game. Watching Uruguay and France face off in the quarterfinals. Definitely, I think a very fast-paced game with all the pace both teams have. With that, let's move on to the next round 16 game being Spain versus Russia. The first big upset in round 16 with Russia defeating Spain in penalty shootout. Spain missing 2 PKs. Pretty sure those were blocked too. If I'm not mistaken.
I couldn't watch it. I can't watch PKs when it goes to PKs. I just turn it off and I say that flip the coin. It kills me.
So your thoughts on Spain, David?
Oh gosh. So I know that earlier in this tournament we were really bashing on Argentina and Brazil for doing some Neymar-esque / Messi-esque things where they just said, this is the player that will create things, so let's just get the ball to him. And that's what happened with Spain. Isco was incredible, but he was the only guy creating anything for Spain, and everyone else looked like they just wanted to pass it without any forward thought. And so I don't want to cry too hard into the microphone, but I do want to say that all of this, in my mind, goes directly back to getting rid of the coach right beforehand. Whenever the camera panned to Yarrow, he did not look like he knew what was going on. He was always anxious, and he did not have the subs ready. He did not have the tactics ready. And even though Spain was good enough to get out of the group, they needed to have tactical prowess on top of their footballing technique, and they didn't have that with Yarrow. So I was incredibly frustrated. I think they could have still gone far if they had 2010 Andres Iniesta, but instead they have 2018 Andre Iniesta. And so if they had both Isco and Iniesta, I think they would have been fine. But Iniesta, when he came on, he still made a difference, but he's too old, too slow. They needed to put Aspas in sooner. They should have dominated Russia. I was incredibly frustrated. How much possession did Russia have? At times it was so little.
Oh, it was. Well, the ending stats were 21%. So.
Yeah, and that's the ending stats. If they just had a little bit, like when Aspas came on, he started doing all these runs, and it just looked incredibly different. But like by then, Isco was already dead tired, and so I think it's just a partial mix of like management, and then Russia trying really hard, and Spain not having the forward thinking they needed. So. Once again, though, real quick, not to take too much time on this, Russia was probably the worst matchup for Spain, though, other than maybe like a Sweden, a team that like literally would not try to attack unless given like overwhelming opportunity. That's a bad matchup for Spain in this. They wanted someone that would open up a little. Mm-hmm. So I'm incredibly disappointed in Spain, though. I'm disappointed in their players. I'm disappointed in the federation for being so cocky as to get rid of a coach right beforehand. Like that's Spanish Federation's fault. Like that's the stupidest move ever. So And once again, this is all criticism and love because I want Spain to do better, and so I want them to know that they need to think these things through better. But congratulations to Russia. And who's the big striker for Russia?
That would be.
Let's see if I can pull up his name. I think he's one of my new favorite players of the tournament.
I was going to say Golovin. But
I'll
is Dazuba.
Is it Dazuba?
That's it.
I don't know either. But,
I don't speak Russian either.
He was a hard worker. He's very difficult to deal with, and I really was actually very impressed by him. I've been impressed by him, but I always enjoy watching him play. He's one of those players that you can tell play because of the love of the game. So it is Dazuba, however you say that. He's a 6'5" guy. 200 pounds, 29 years old. I really admire that. I think the story is he actually went to a smaller club out on loan just to get playing time to get into the team, and it's really paid off for him. So congrats to Russia. I'm sorry, Spain. You broke my heart again.
I just want to go back on on what you said about the matchup with Russia and Spain. It kind of seemed like the story of the World Cup a little bit, of these teams that are used to sitting back and taking on all this pressure from these big teams with a lot of inspiration and a lot of good quality on their teams, and then wait for those opportunities and counterattack and pounce on them and get some goals. Kind of seemed the story of the World Cup. So I don't know if this game proves it, that counterattacking play can beat possession ball. And now I think we're going to see a change in football a little bit, and it's going to become a little mixture between possession ball and counterattacking ball.
Yeah, I agree. I think counterattacking is coming back.
And I was going to criticize Spain on that. Like, without the tactical guidance by their coach, they fell into their old patterns of just tiki-taka without any forward thinking, which is against possession ball, that's the most dangerous. You have to score a goal, or against counterattack ball, you have to have possession with meaning. They didn't have any forward through balls. And you guys know this. You guys have seen enough Bayern, Real Madrid games and things, and you know that just possession enough doesn't mean it. You have to put it away.
Yeah, possession is not defense. I don't care what anybody says. I know it started way before Pep Guardiola, but Guardiola made it famous. But possession is not defense. You've got to play defense in today's game. And just playing pass around and keep away, these teams, especially at the national level, but even at the club level, these teams has finally learned. So, we can sit back and take this all day long. If you can't score a goal, we're happy with that. And we'll get our opportunities. They might be slim, but we're going to get our opportunities, and we're going to put them away. And I think that's what we've seen in the World Cup, is these teams that are less talented and whatever against these big name clubs, when they get the opportunity, they're actually putting it in the back of the net. Where the possession teams, they're the ones struggling. They can't hit the net. They hit the post. It goes over. It goes wider. They don't even get a shot. So, yeah, I agree with you there, David. Right?
Can't hear you, Ray.
Microphone issues. No. Okay, move on.
Yep. Well, brilliant game from Russia. To this point, I still can't believe that they've upset Spain, and it just baffles me to see them in the quarterfinal. I'm just like,
well, it's a home field advantage. I mean, you see it with the exception of 2010 with South Africa. All your teams that had hosted the World Cup have gone on and looked pretty good. They might not have gone far, like the semifinal or final, but they've gone on and they've looked decent. They've had some good upsets. I think it's playing in front of your home fan, even though might not be as good. helps your momentum. You're pumped up. You play above your ability, and I think maybe that's what's happening with Russia.
And I know that both Ray and you guys brought up the fact that that's what happened to Spain in 2002. And
All right, hold on, guys. Sorry about that, guys. A little technical difficulty there. Had to change rooms. Yeah, you were saying, David?
yeah, the Spain ran into South Korea in the 2002 the World Cup, and so this same thing. They run into the host nation. The host nation is playing inspired, just like you're saying. The refs are maybe giving the benefit of the doubt to the host nation, maybe not consciously, but it's happening. The fans are there pushing them on. So clearly that's bad luck for Spain, but Spain should have walked all over Russia if they played up to their capabilities. So once again, I'm just going to be highly critical of Spain and say great job to Russia. Give due where it's due, that they played a perfect game plan to get through, and Spain didn't have the cutting edge to put it away, which they should have easily had.
Mm-hmm. Are you with us now, Ray?
Doesn't look like it.
No. Okay. We'll keep moving on. Next game we got is Croatia versus Denmark. Ray, you better get that mic working so I'm not here for me. So this one was another game that was pretty crazy. Also went to PKs. Honestly, I thought Croatia was going to take the game away with how they were looking. Their last game, their last group stage game, with Luka Modric doing really well, and then Zukic pulling out as well. But Denmark came to play, and they held them, and unfortunately, Schmeichel wasn't enough to hold them off, but Croatia got the win. Let's go to you, Charles. What do you think of this game?
I thought this is an incredible game by the goalie, especially Schmeichel. He kept him in the game, and heck, going to PKs, I mean, it came down to the wire. Kudos to Denmark. They played outstanding. I knew it was going to be closer, but I didn't think it'd go to penalties. I didn't even think it'd go to extra time. I thought maybe it'd be 2-1, something like that, 1-0, and Croatia would take it. But wow, kudos to Denmark. They played awesome, and all the way to penalties. Great defense. Shut Croatia with the exception of the one goal during regular time. Kudos.
I would also like to point out that Croatia had to change its game plan against Denmark. They had to play Luka Modric a little back, I think. I think he played a little more defensively than he had against Argentina. And I do think that that changed how Croatia played. So I guess what I'm pointing out here is that there's incredibly different matchups in the World Cup. Like you have a matchup against a team like Argentina, which is going to want to hold on to possession. So that means that if you take the ball over, you're going to catch the players out of position. On the other hand, Denmark doesn't care about possession as much. So you're always going to be battling. So even though Croatia looked incredible in some situations, they didn't have the Swiss Army knife. They didn't have all the gears to be able to play in every scenario. So once again, props to Denmark's defending, but I'm kind of disappointed that Croatia couldn't pick the lock. They couldn't figure it out a little more often. So, and I think this is going to be something we're going to be talking about quite a bit. PKs, going to PKs is kind of surprising to me. I know that no one wants to lose the game. It's a lot easier to, you'd rather not lose the game. You can win the game sometimes, but often you can just lose the game by doing something stupid. Mm. So they were playing not to lose, I think, a lot of these teams.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
All right, you're good, Ray. What's your thoughts on Denmark in this game?
Yeah, I mean, I was honestly surprised, I guess from, I don't know, a number of chances that they had. I thought that the game played out pretty evenly in regular time. Schmeichel was incredible, but I also shared the, I guess, disappointment also in Croatia, expecting them to be a little bit better. But yeah, how about Modric after Croatia being awarded a PK and Schmeichel saving it in extra time and then stepping up again and putting it away in PKs? I mean, that's high pressure, and that's a difficult situation to be in. So, and in PKs, like both goalkeepers, I mean, I think going into it based on the performance on Schmeichel, you'd say Denmark would have had the edge, but Subasic for Croatia just came out and saved Denmark's best players, PK and Eriksson, first one right off the bat. And yeah, both goalkeepers were incredible in that PK session. Mm-hmm. So obviously, yeah, I'm a little saddened by Denmark exiting, but I thought they put up a pretty impressive and valiant performance to go out. So
that's one of the funniest things, though, what you're talking about the goalkeepers, because when we talk about a couple other games, we're going to say like how the goalkeepers couldn't save anything. Yeah. And then in this one, they were just feeling it. The goalkeepers sensed it every single time, it seemed like.
Yeah.
That's true. This game at least showed me how amazing the keepers were or have been this World Cup. There's been a lot of great saves. And we've seen that we've seen the small teams show up in World Cup, but I think we've seen a lot of the keepers show up in a lot of these games, as we saw with Mexican team, their keepers showing up a lot of times, and a lot of other teams are showing up. And speaking of Mexico, let's go into Brazil versus Mexico game where Brazil triumphed 2-0 over Mexico. Honestly, I was surprised with this game. I thought it was just going to be like, the Spain-Russia game where Brazil was just attacking. Mexico was just going to sit back and take it and maybe counterattack, get some goals. But Mexico, just like they did with Germany, They took it to them. They weren't afraid to open up and attack and make the game more interesting. And so that's what I thought was most impressive from Mexico, was they took it to Brazil, but unfortunately couldn't capitalize on any of their opportunities. Then Brazil took advantage of those mistakes and did capitalize on their opportunities and ended up with the win. But yeah, Let's go around the clock this time and go to Ray. What do you think of this game with Brazil and Mexico?
Yeah, I think I'd have to disagree. I don't think Mexico didn't have really much quality. I don't think they looked ever like as if they were gonna, I don't know, win this game at all, in my opinion. Brazil, I mean, they've just been the steady, consistent, winning all their games 2-0, I think, so far, or except for their first one, tying 1-1. So, I mean, out of the favorites, I mean, it hasn't looked like with all that talent, you think they'd blow people out of the water. But, I mean, it is just because you put all this talent together doesn't mean you're going to kill everybody. So I think they've been the most consistent favorite over any of the teams in this World Cup so far. So, yeah, just another win for them and moving on to the next round.
Yep. Charles,
I didn't know who was around the clock, so Charles is the next. Okay.
Oh yeah, we go for you, David.
Okay. So I'm going to be critical of Mexico real quick. I think that they had chances on the wings, and they attacked Brazil's right back. I don't remember his name because he's kind of unknown to me. But he didn't look like he had a great game. But at the same time, the attackers of Mexico didn't take advantage of that. Like they tried doing like fancy step overs or something, and they just weren't able to actually create anything on that side. But the real critique of Mexico that I was going to put in was they started Rafa Marquez, and he's 39 years old. They started him in the midfield, and I'm not saying that he's not a capable player, but he's definitely going to be tired. And so I don't think he contributed very much to the game. I thought that if they had one of those hard workmanship like midfield duos like they kind of had played against Germany, I think that would have been a very difficult thing for Brazil to break down. Instead, they worked their tails off and they didn't really get anywhere with it. So I know that my Mexican friends were highly disappointed. They thought the refs were a little suspect, but I think that it was a deserved Brazil victory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was a deserved Brazil victory. But, I've been critical of Mexico this whole tournament. I think just they beat Germany and everybody put them in. Ooh, they've got to be one of the favorites. Germany had a down World Cup. Now we saw the last two games, we saw the real Mexico. They got beat 3-0 by, I think it was 3-0 by Sweden, and now 2-0 by Brazil. We see the real Mexico. The talent's not up there quite yet with the European teams and a quality South American team like Brazil. But I did see some good stuff with them. Like you said, they had some good attacks on the flanks. They had some good shots that they couldn't convert, and outstanding play by their keeper. He's the one who keeps them in most of the games anyway. He's a top-notch keeper. So I give kudos to him for that. And like Raymond said, Brazil's just plugging along. They're considered one of the favorites. They're just doing what they have to do. It's interesting that they're doing it late, pretty much in every game. It's like they can't do anything in the first half, and then they leave it, late in the second half to win it. So that kind of concerns me for a team that's considered to be a favorite. But they're doing it, so that's all you can. With this wacky World Cup that we have this year, and all the interesting upsets and stuff, they are the most consistent. I'd have to agree with that.
And when we go on to the next game and we talk about, Roberto Martinez says something like that as well. He said, at this point, it's a knockout tournament. You just got to advance. So I agree with you on that sentiment. On the other hand, I'd also like to point out that Brazil continually said, hey, look at what we can do. Look at all our options. And then they never did it. Like Neymar kept taking the ball, doing something fancy, and then getting knocked over and crying for an hour. Paulinho kept getting into good spaces and then not doing much. Coutinho kept showing off something fancy and then taking a bad shot. Yeah. And so I think that if they put it together, they'll be great. But if they keep playing like individuals, it's going to get ugly at some point.
Well, that was and we'll go on to this in the next game, that was a knock against Belgium in the last few World Cups, was they have all this talent, but they're playing as individuals, not as a team. This time they're playing as a team, and you're seeing what's happening. And now Brazil has all this talent. They're winning, but they're playing as individuals. So how's that going to translate when you start getting into the more beefy teams coming up? So we'll have to see. That'll be interesting.
Does Brazil have any yellow cards preventing that aren't moving on? And is Marcelo still injured? Do you know?
I'm not. I'm pretty sure Marcelo will still be injured. We'll have to see. There's kind of a long break between games, so he might be able to heal up. But there are some yellow cards on Brazil to be concerned about. Casemiro and Felipe Luis picked up one in these games.
I think Casemiro's out, right? So Casemiro should be out for this one.
He should be. I think. I agree.
And so that's a big loss because he really anchors that. I know that they have like Fernandinho and Paulinho's played in that role before and a couple other players. Yeah. But Paulinho in Barcelona and when he was at that Chinese club, he played a more attacking role in like a 4-4-2 that really attacked. And I think that that's what he's been doing recently and really excelling at. So putting him in a Casemiro role, I don't think that that's going to be as effective.
Did you just mention Danilo? Or no?
No, I haven't mentioned him. Is he injured?
Well, I just see a report that he's out of the World Cup due to ankle injury. So that may be another loss for Brazil.
Yeah. And so at left back, they have if Felipe Luis is out and Marcelo's injured, that might be a problem. Mm-hmm. And then if Casemiro's out, I think that's a really big loss because you can't have that much attacking talent on a team without a strong spine.
Yeah. And they have a tough one coming up.
Yep. Brings us to our next game, which was Belgium versus Japan. Now, also like the Croatia-Denmark game, I was expecting Belgium to come in this and dominate Japan completely. But like Charles said at the beginning of the very first podcast we did in World Cup, Japan is no way to be trifled with. And they came out, held Japan whole first half, and then mid-second half scored 2 goals, and really pushed Belgium to the brink. And I think that made Belgium open up, and it's kind of like a spray of fresh water in the morning. You wake up, you take a cold shower, and like, oh man, I need to do this. I need to get on this, and then it woke them up, and it made them score those 3 goals. So I think really those 2 goals from Japan were their demise, because it woke Belgium up, and they got 3 miraculous goals in the end to win it. But let's go around the clock again. Ray, what do you think of this game of Belgium versus Japan?
First off, I would say it was one of the most exciting games in this tournament. I think the Argentina-France game, and the Spain-Portugal game has been the 3 best games so far. To be honest, I think Belgium is super fortunate to win this game. It was back and forth from the get-go. The pace of the game was incredible, so that's why it was super entertaining to watch. Both teams had incredible chances, but nobody broke through in the first half until Japan broke through twice early in the second half. And so, I don't know. I kind of looked more as Japan blew it, and it was kind of a typical Belgium in with this golden generation and all this talent, but in knockout round games in the World Cup or the Euros, they can't seem to rise to the pressure. Vertonghen had a crazy header that was pretty fortunate from
lucky,
almost the outside of the 18 that kind of sparked that. But I mean, again, like you look at the goal scorers for Belgium, Hazard wasn't there. Lukaku wasn't there. Mm-hmm. They had to, grab from their scraps with Fellaini and Chadley and Vertonghen with a crazy header. So,
And I feel like
Yeah.
Fellaini's was like a little foul. There was like a foul. Like he jumped on that guy basically, but he's so big that they just don't call those things. I don't know. That
Yeah.
frustrates me.
So, yeah, it's super entertaining game. I feel bad for Japan not being able to close that one out. But I can't say I'm too confident in Belgium after, I guess, a performance like that, even though they came back and won. But
Yeah, your thoughts on the game, dude?
Okay. I know I've talked about this before. Once again, congrats to Japan because they actually played really well until they made a lot of serious gaffes in the second half. But throughout the World Cup, they've played very well. But Japan, I thought, was getting bombarded in the first half. I thought they were just getting knocked out. And this is another scenario where the second half comes on and Japan looked so good all of a sudden. And I don't know what they did in the locker room, what the coach yelled at them about, but they came out and they looked super dangerous. And after they scored those 2 goals, literally everyone thought they were done. That Belgium was done out because I know 2 goals up is supposedly the most dangerous score, but Belgium couldn't get through. They couldn't break through down the door in the first half, and so 2 goals up, you think that's pretty good. And then, like Ray said,
really good too.
Oh,
they were
From Japan.
good
They were really
goals.
good.
They
good strikes.
They looked like they could continue to do that if Belgium overpressed. They looked like he continued to get like some chances. And then when Vertonghen's goal went in, like Ray said, and then the Fellaini goal, it was the Fellaini goal that was second, right? Which one was the second?
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Fellaini,
you felt that it was done. And so I'd also like to point out how Japan, like they threw everything into the end because they thought that either we score now or we're done. And I admire that strategy. Some people might complain and criticize them, but they had nothing left in the tank. So when that breakaway came and Chadley came and scored, that's fine to me. I understand you had to gamble it all. You had to say maybe we can win on this last corner, and it came back and bit them. But at the same time, I admire the guts to throw all the dice in there instead of just to like literally put like 10 people behind the ball and hope you win on PKs because they had nothing left in the tank. So they put everything in. So congrats to Japan for just trying that hard. I want to give every team that puts that much effort in all the congratulations in the world.
No, I hear you, and like Derek said, from the beginning, I picked Japan coming out of their group. I don't think any of you guys did, and I think everybody underestimated Japan. They're very disciplined. Most of their players play in Europe. I know 5 of them for sure play in the Bundesliga, and they're a talented team. Obviously, they're not as talented as Belgium. We see the good teams always find a way to come back and win. But Raymond, I'm going to have to disagree with you. I mean, Belgium ran into a tough Japan team. This doesn't show any weaknesses, in my opinion, of Belgium and that they're falling apart and whatever, and the same old Belgium we saw in the past. Japan, again, my personal opinion, were underestimated. And I thought Belgium maybe came in like everybody else. Hey, we're going to toast these guys, and found out these guys can play. They're disciplined. They're fast. We saw 2 good strikes in the second half that finally broke down Belgium. But like you said, they were juiced at the end because of the talent and the speed of Belgium that they had. They didn't have anything in a tank, and bang, 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 3 goals and they're done. So kudos to Japan. I thought they did great in this World Cup. I had them going to this round. Kudos. And as far as Belgium's concerned, I think they're still a favorite. I really do. And they just ran into it. Every team in this World Cup has ran into a tough team to play. And I think this was Belgium's. This was a tough team for them. And I think this gives them the confidence going, look, we're 2 goals down. We came back and won. We can beat anybody now. I think this probably boosted their locker room. As long as they can stay playing as a team and not revert back to playing as individuals, if they play as a team, they can go far. So that's my opinion.
I think that as long as they have Kevin De Bruyne, who makes just some incredible passes, they're going to have chances because I think that he's the one that actually like opens everything up. I know Lukaku's made some good cross-field passes, but I could criticize him more than you criticized Lewandowski, which was quite a bit. So I would suggest that like having a player like Kevin De Bruyne just gives teams like that little edge, that little piece of quality right when it's necessary.
No, I
so
agree.
he made some killer passes during this game, which just broke Japan's heart.
Yeah. Kudos to Japan, though, man. Kudos to him. So.
Yeah, I think that was part of Japan's success too. Is they kind of controlled De Bruyne in that Belgium midfield, and that's why I don't think you had Lukaku or Hazard. Their big stars didn't perform well, and they had to get goals from other places. So.
Yeah, but that's what great teams do, though, is when your superstars are slacking, the rest of the team picks it up. And I think that's kudos to Belgium that other teams, other players came and picked it up. Again, just that in my opinion, but I like to see that.
No, yeah, but I just think we saw the same thing in the last World Cup against a very disciplined USA team, and the USA took them to extra time. And then when Belgium faced someone of similar, I guess, individual quality, you could say to them in Argentina, they couldn't hang. And then they lose to a disciplined Wales team in the Euros. So I think it's a more prove it to me type attitude that I have with them, because they haven't shown that they can beat anybody, any of the top teams yet.
I think that they're playing against Brazil, right? I think that's actually a good matchup for them, because Brazil's not going to feel like they have to sit back and bunker up, and so Belgium will have the chance to hit them on the counter and to play against an open midfield. And so I think this is to Belgium's advantage.
Yeah, we'll have to see. That'll be a good contest.
Yeah, no one ever says that against Brazil. Oh, I want to play against Brazil. And so I'm not saying that there's not better matchups, but I think that this could lead to some advantageous opportunities. Mm-hmm. And it might be better for them instead of playing a game against like Russia per se, which would just bunker up super hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just going off what Charles said about teamwork with Belgium. That last goal, Lukaku could have easily just tapped it in, but he was really aware of his players around him, and was named Chadley behind him, who had an open net and just let it roll between his legs and had an open goal and put it in. So
that was a great one.
It was a very good move.
Yeah, I thought it was really good teamwork play. From starting from all the way from Courtois, taking it out fast, and then De Bruyne recognizing the quick play, Courtois rolling out, De Bruyne taking it all the way, putting out wide, and then cross that Lukaku left where Chadley put it in. So it was really, really good teamwork to get that third goal. When they face Belgium in the quarterfinals next. So that's a really good game. Hopefully pretty consistent with all the other games that we have watched in this knockout stage. It will hopefully be really exciting. Moving on, let's go to next round 16 game being Sweden versus Switzerland. With Sweden getting the 1-0 win over Switzerland. Let's go around the clock again. Ray, what do you think of Sweden in this game?
Well, it was a pretty ugly game in my opinion, to be honest. I mean, but going into it, Sweden, Switzerland, nobody thought that there'd be this kind of matchup in the knockout round. Yeah. And based on their style players and style play, I don't know. It's kind of like, we'll see how this one goes. And yeah, not a lot of chances, like good quality chances created on either side. The one goal for Sweden ended up being a deflection by a Switzerland defender, so pretty unfortunate for the Swiss there. And yeah, not much to say about it, but I think Sweden deserved to go through.
Mm-hmm. David, thoughts about Sweden and Switzerland?
Yeah, so I agree with Ray that it was an ugly game, but at the same time, I really liked Sweden. It was kind of like a mirror match in a way that you both knew they were going to play very hard defense and maybe not be as committed on offense. but Sweden actually had a lot of really good chances that I really liked, and they seemed to defend very quite adeptly against Switzerland, which put a lot of good crosses into the boxes, because Switzerland has two of the best crossers in the game with Lichtsteiner and Ricardo Rodriguez. So I would say that this is actually one of the tougher matches for Sweden. Like, they feel like they can defend all day against teams like Brazil, just like if they're trying to do things. But against a team like Switzerland, where they have to push forward and maybe leave gaps, that's really dangerous. So I really actually liked Sweden's big man, the striker. When they put crosses in the box, he did a great job of just like knocking them down to other players running onto the ball, or to giving them opportunities. It was very good hold-up play right in the box, and those are some of the hardest things to defend. So I think that's going to be very dangerous. We're going to talk about it in a second, but I think that this is probably a nightmare matchup for England.
Yeah, and this is one of the games that I was looking forward, and in a way, as far as action and whatever, kind of disappointed me. But it was a heavyweight fight, is what it looked like. It was a bruising style game. Nobody really sat back and played defense. They just kind of came at each other, and again, the unfortunate rebound, or deflection, I should say, to the net to give Sweden the win. I thought this one was going to be headed to extra time, or maybe even PKs like some of the other games we talked about. But yeah, what a bad way for Switzerland to go out. But kudos to Sweden, and I'm interested to see how they're going to do against England in the next round.
And you were saying how Japan was a much more difficult opponent than we're giving them credit for. I think the same thing of Switzerland. I know that they disappointed in past World Cups and other scenarios, but they've done great. Like this team they currently have is a combination of a great U21 team that has grown up and played together for many years, and so they know each other really well, and they play a style that they all can get behind. And so I think that it's actually a very difficult game for Sweden, and not a convincing win, but you get through it, and you do it in a way that you can hold your head up high.
Yep.
And on top of that, we're going to talk about this, but England's going to be so tired. Mm-hmm. There's teams that are going to, they went into overtime and then PKs. Winning it in just full time is really a bonus for Sweden.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Also, I was just looking at the stats a little bit, and, Switzerland had most of the possession in this game and had most of the shots, had 18 shots, but with also beat Switzerland 4 on target. But then, shot accuracy comes down to unless you don't count deflection. But
I think that
Sweden
was
took it to Sweden, and then Sweden worked off the counterattack.
I think Sweden was fine with that, though, because we've kind of talked about how one team was going to have to come out of its shell and play a little differently. And I think Sweden thought, well, if Switzerland wants to be the team that tries to play differently, then that's fine with us. And they kind of got lucky, but they scored and they won, so it paid off.
Yep. So Sweden moves on to face the next game we're talking about. Faced England in quarterfinals. So next game is Colombia versus England, which ended in PKs. England winning 4-3 over Colombia in PKs. Ray, thoughts on England?
I think this is one of the dirtiest games I saw in the tournament. It was an American referee, and there was no control over this game. There definitely should have been a red card someone sent off at some time. I think, Colombia had 6 yellow cards, so half their team.
Yeah.
England had 2 themselves. Super chippy. Again, like I said last week, my concern with James not playing, and he was not fit enough to play. And I think that really showed. I think he would have been the difference for Colombia and probably could have caused them to go through. I think in the Harry Kane's PK to go up 1-0 for England, I think that was the third time that they called one of those grabbing, pushing, shoving PKs in the box this World Cup, something they were trying to emphasize. So, and he clearly got mugged, so no issue with that. And then the center back, Mina for Colombia, he's been their best player. He scored 3 goals this World Cup, so. And right at the death too, to put it in extra time.
Yeah.
And then going to PKs, like after England missed the first one, Henderson, I think everybody was thinking, oh, that's it. And, pressure was on, missed. Colombia's going to go through, but credit to Pickford for coming up with some 2 big saves and the rest of England putting their PKs through. So it was a 50-50 going into the game. I mean, nobody really, there wasn't really a favorite matching up. You could say both teams were pretty even. And so, I think England's deserving to go through. I think either team would have.
David, thoughts on this game?
I want to agree with Ray wholeheartedly in how dirty it was, but partially what I mean by dirty is that the players played a little dirty, but then they also went down as if everything was like a death blow, and that just angered me so much. This is the antithesis of football. This was one of the ugliest games I've seen in a long time, not because of the play. I didn't think the play was good, but just because they literally were saying anytime you talk to an American that hates soccer, they're like, it's because, they get touched and they cry forever. And this is what happened all over. These guys were just trying to draw fouls left and right. And I think that PKs should have been, or not PKs, but yellow cards should have been handed out for that. I think that they should have said, okay, you're diving again, diving. That really angers me. So I don't know what you guys thought, but that's my opinion on that. That just
I agree.
Angered me so much. On the other hand, what I really agree with Ray about was that James. I have a lot of English friends that were telling me that England looked better, and I think they're just looking at it through rose-tinted glasses. Because if James had been on the field, I think England would have been destroyed. And I don't think James is even like an incredible player. I just think he would have lifted them that much over. I think Colombia would have just been that much better and just walked all over England, because England did not show any of the grit, any of the creativity. They didn't have the attacking flair they needed to break down Colombia. Harry Kane did a great job holding up the ball, but it wasn't enough because he didn't have the good passes in between the lines and behind the lines that he needed. So I'm actually pretty disappointed in England. But on the other hand, once again, let's quote Roberto Martinez. We got through. It's a knockout tournament. We're good. So and on top of that, like Ray said, breaking the English curse of losing in PKs. Every time they get in PKs, they lose in the World Cup. And so I think that's really good for England, and it's testimonial to the fact that they went with players that are younger and have more fire and are willing to put those things behind them. Players that aren't burdened by the shirt. And so I think that, like Ray said, Pickford, I'm really proud of him. I'm proud of Eric Dyer for putting away that last PK. That must have been so much stress. And first of all, he's the least English defender in the world. He played a lot in Portugal, so I think that might have a lot to do with it. And then also having Eric Dyer who was playing as midfielder or center back, like he can just move around. So when they put in, who did they put in? They pulled out a center back, I think, and put in a striker at the end. And they've moved Eric Dyer back. I think that kind of flexibility is just absolutely you can't say enough about how important that is to be able to change games just by shifting a player a tiny bit. So even though I think that either team would have deserved it, I think neither team should have gone through based on the amount of I don't know shenanigans trying to shift the game in their favor by tricking the ref. like that just frustrated me so much.
Yeah.
So I think retroactive yellow cards should be given.
No, I agree with you on that. That's one of my biggest pet peeves about the game of football is the diving, and I don't know when the refs are going to start getting the cojones to start whipping out cards on this. Even if you're in the wrong once in a while and the guy's really injured and you whip out a card, okay, who cares? We need to stop the diving, and this game proved it to me. The diving is ridiculous. It doesn't work. The refs are not going to go for it. You know, you're not getting a penalty off of it. You know, it's just get up and quit acting like little crybabies. And like you said, this is why football has trouble getting a big grasp in the United States. Like you said, a lot of my American friends here too. Same thing. They said, "Oh, how do you watch this when the guys are just crying like little babies? All they do is get touched and they drop on the ground and like whining and crying like they just got shot or something." It's stupid. It's ridiculous. And I think FIFA has to sit down with the refs, new training, something to stop this. And this game proved it again. That this is kind of ridiculous for the game of football.
I've been critiquing Colombia on that the whole time, but England was just as much to blame this game. And I don't know. You guys kind of said that it was the MLS refs' fault, and I don't know if I 100% agree on that. I think Colombia has been prone to play acting this whole tournament, but the ref surely didn't help by not having a stronger grasp on the game. So
well, it's not just. I mean, look at Brazil and Neymar.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they even have a YouTube commercial out there with him rolling around all over the field and then out the stadium. And I mean, come on, man, this is ridiculous. But yeah, this was an ugly game. I hand it to England winning in PKs, finally winning in PKs. But maybe you're right. Maybe Jaime would have made the difference. Don't know. Looked like England had the game won, and then Colombia scored late to put it into extra time. That made it interesting. But yeah, this is ugly. Kudos to England. Colombia, shame on you. Same with England, shame on you. Let's get it together in the next game and quit the shenanigans and play some real football.
One thing that I'd like to say is that this was yet another game where England's goal was because of a PK or a set play or something.
Yeah.
And so I think that doesn't bode well for England. They're having trouble getting open play goals unless it was against Tunisia, I think. Everything else has been like a set play or a PK. So once again, I think Sweden's going to be a nightmare matchup for them unless they really get something figured out.
Mm-hmm. And I think that something for me is they need to start Rashford. They need to bench Sterling because he hasn't shown himself in this World Cup. He's shown how many mistakes he can make in this World Cup.
And how bad he is in front of goal.
Exactly. So but Rashford needs to start, and then they need to also figure something out in the midfield as well. I know Henderson has been playing sort of decent, but maybe there needs to be a switch up there. But yeah, definitely Rashford needs to start for me.
I agree with that. And you were talking up Rashford before the World Cup, so it would be great to see him go in and actually make some impact.
Yep, definitely. With that, we have the round of 16 complete, and the quarterfinals are in. First, let's make this a little fast. We're running short on time, but let's talk about the quarterfinals. Preview them for a little bit. First, we got Uruguay versus France. We talked about a little bit at the beginning of the podcast how it's going to be a fast-paced game with a little bit of quality of Suarez, Cavani, and also Mbappe showing up for France in this last game versus Argentina. So a lot of quality there. Let's go around clock and get some predictions. Ray, who's going to come out of this quarterfinal versus Uruguay and France?
I'm going to go with, I don't know, I guess you can consider it an upset on paper. I'm going to go with Uruguay. I think they're going to defend really well, and I think Suarez and Cavani will French defense that, allowed 3 goals to an Argentine side that hasn't been good this World Cup. So, and I think their defense is going to do enough to shut down France and limit their chances. So I'm going to pick Uruguay going through to the semis.
All right, David, prediction?
I think that France is going to push really, really hard for an early goal because they know if they can get Uruguay to come out of their shell, that's the best chance they'll have. So I think that if they get the early goal, it will be like France 3-0, and if they don't, then I think it's going to be Uruguay 1 or 1-0 or something like that. Just a low-scoring game. So I know that's no prediction. I think Uruguay can do it though. So I think 1-0.
Okay.
Yeah. It depends on which France team comes out. The possession ball one that went through the group, or they changed it up and became a counterattacking team, and they put 4 goals up against Argentina. Yeah, they gave up 3. 1 was late, so I don't really count that one. The game was already over by that point. So it depends on which France. I think France has the talent. France has the speed. I'm going France.
Yeah, same here. I'm going France as well. I think there's too much talent on the France final third, the Uruguay to handle. But I don't know. Uruguay's defense is really good.
Can't put it past them.
So we'll see how that game goes. Let's move on to the next game, which is Brazil versus Belgium. Double B game. Ray, what do you got for this game predictions?
Well, yeah, I think I'm going to go with Brazil. I just think they've been consistent, and even though it hasn't looked good or like overwhelmingly good, they've still been good enough to win each game. So, and yeah, I don't have. Again, like I said, it's kind of a prove it to me thing with Belgium. If they can finally break through and beat a good quality team in a knockout tournament. But I'm going to go with Brazil.
I'm going to go with Belgium on this one. I think it's going to be like 2-0 and 2-0. And I'm predicting a Brazil red card in there somewhere. The reason that I predict the red card is I think that Belgium's going to kind of open up some things and make Brazil look really bad, and so Brazil is going to be forcing some last ditch things, which are going to be called red cards. Yeah. So anyway, keep going.
They're going to continue. Neymar's going to continue rolling.
Yeah, Neymar will keep on rolling through the tournament.
Rolling and crying.
Right off the cliff.
I'm going with Belgium on this one, too. I agree with you, Ray. Brazil's been the most consistent. It hasn't looked pretty, but consistency wins championships, But I just think this year Belgium got it together. They're not playing as individuals. They're playing as a team, and all that talent is coming together. And I don't think you can go by the Japan game again. Like I said, I think people underestimated Japan. It was a tough team. I think even Belgium underestimated them, but they're not going to underestimate Brazil. They know they have Neymar, Paulinho, Coutinho, the list goes on. So, I don't think they're going to underestimate them. I think it's not going to be a high score, 2-0, 2-1, but I think Belgium's going to take it.
Okay. I'm going to go with Brazil, even though I'm rooting for Belgium. I think Brazil is going to take it. I think the finishing quality of Brazil is going to overcome Belgium's finishing. I think there's going to be a lot of chances. The game's going to be pretty open, but I think in the end, Brazil's going to take their chances more than Belgium will. So those games are tomorrow. The Uruguay-France game, Pacific time is 7 a.m., right? Pacific time is 7 a.m., and Brazil-Belgium game is 11 a.m. So watch out for those games tomorrow. And then on Saturday, we got first game is
Croatia.
Actually, Sweden,
England.
England.
Okay. They flip-flopped them.
Yeah, they flip-flopped them a little bit. So All right, Sweden versus England. Ray, prediction for that game?
Gosh, yeah. I don't know. This is like a toss up to me. I agree with David and how Sweden's style is going to cause England a bunch of problems because, I think England has a lot of speed that would cause Sweden's defenders a lot of issues because they're, bigger and slower. But if Sweden, sits back, then, that speed, you're not going to be able to use that speed really to get in behind anything. So I think this has extra time or PKs written all over it. And I'll just go with England for the heck of it, but I'm not too confident in that pick because that's who I'm rooting for.
I'm going to go with Sweden. I'm going to stick by my prediction. And just because I say that Sweden's a nightmare team for England doesn't mean that they don't have the overwhelming odds in their favor. I think that England is favored to go through, but I think that Sweden can pull it off with like a 1-0 or 2-0 victory. Even though I think Harry Kane will do well, I don't see England's center backs doing great against like Sweden's physical bruising style.
Yeah, I think this is the most tough one to pick out of all of them. Earlier in the World Cup, I would have said England, but man, the way Sweden is playing, I'm with Raymond. Give me a quarter. I'm gonna flip it. I might have to give the edge to England. Maybe because experience, they've been there before. But this is a coin toss. I'll have to say England, only just because that's the way the coin landed.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to say England too. I don't know, just how I know Sweden played really well against Switzerland, but had a little luck to getting that goal. Well, and then England had a lot of luck too, just getting to the PKs. But I think England will prevail in the end. And then the second game on Saturday. Oh, go ahead, David. Go ahead.
My other reason for that is, like I said earlier, that England hasn't had very many open play opportunities, and I think they're going to have fewer against Sweden. And so if they can't get a good header in at some point off a cross, off like a set play, then I think that Sweden will have advantage on just their defense, just sitting back and countering.
That is true. England's game has sort of been focused on set plays kind of this World Cup. So, yeah, look forward to that game. It's the first game on Saturday. And then the second game, we got, I still can't believe it baffles me every time, Russia versus Croatia, quarterfinals. So, yeah, let's go to Ray. Who you got for that game?
Well, yeah, I was going to bring it up when you guys were talking about Spain and Russia, and my mic went out. But like, if PK for Spain doesn't raise his hand in the box, and Russia gets a PK off of that, we wouldn't be talking about this. I think the only chance Russia had to go through was PKs. So now that they're here, I just think, Croatia will control the game much like Spain did, and as long as they don't make a dumb mistake, I think Croatia will go through.
I think it's going to be slightly trickier. I don't know if Croatia, if they had the trouble they did unlocking, unlocking Denmark, then I think they're going to have just as much trouble with Russia, because Russia's not going to do anything different. They're going to sit back and go. They're going to do the same thing they did against Spain. On the other hand, Russia might be pretty tired. So I don't know. I think I want Croatia to win, so I'm going to say Croatia wins, like maybe even like a 3-1 or something like that. But I think it's going to be difficult.
Yeah, I'm picking Croatia in this one. I think Russia's time is done. But like David said, I don't think this is going to be a cakewalk. None of the games teams that Russia's played were a cakewalk for the other team, and Russia's proven that. Yeah. But it's going to be a low scoring. I think somebody, Perisic or Modric, somebody like that is going to be the difference. 1-0, 2-1. So I think it's going to be low scoring. I agree with David. It's going to be hard to unlock that defense. They're just going to sit back, and then you counter when they can, and that's going to be hard. But I think Croatia is going to win this one.
Yeah, it'd be pretty funny if we see Russia or Uruguay final.
Oof.
But with that, I don't know. I think Russia's gonna hit hard like they have been. I think it's gonna, but again, I think Croatia's gonna prevail. But I think it's gonna go extra time with Croatia winning 2-1 over Russia in extra time. So that's my prediction. Yep. That's the quarterfinal predictions for you guys. Make sure to watch them next couple days. World Cup resumes Friday and Saturday. Tomorrow and Saturday. I'm so excited and so lonely about the World Cup. It feels so empty.
These 2 days felt so long, didn't they? You're like, why is there no football?
Why?
They should have just kept it going. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, done like a 5th and 6th place game. Come on.
There you go.
But yeah, that's all from us tonight. Thanks for watching Football Around the Clock, World Cup round of 16 and quarterfinal preview. Make sure to watch out for those games. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure you click that like button. Follow us on Facebook. Make sure you watch out for our posts on there on all the news around the football world. And yeah, we'll see you next time.
Football round the clock.
Adios.
See ya.